Good morning. Luke, I am your father. Hello? Good morning, Forward Point. Welcome. If I stare at you for a long time, it's not creepy, I can't see. No, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. It's good to see you guys. I'm back. Sorry I wasn't here last Sunday, but I was telling everybody, this isn't a joke, so don't get prepared to laugh. But my mother-in-law had us move 200 bales of hay. Yes, and I ended up pulling something. And because I don't work out, it hurt a lot. See, it wasn't a joke, sorry. That's what happened. So, but I'm back. I started doing yoga. I don't know if it's kind of weird, because I couldn't find anything that was like not strange. It was all kind of strange. So I just made up my own stretches. One is called the lay down. The other one is called the fall asleep while you lay down. And then I meditated the entire time I was sleeping. It was great. So welcome. My name is Manny, for those who don't know. If anyone's watching online, welcome. For everyone that's here for the first time, welcome. It's so awesome to kind of see you. When you walked in right now, literally everybody is a black shadow. Except for some people that wear white. It was kind of great. But I can't see anybody, which is kind of strange. It's like having a bad dream. Cause I'm like, no, when you're like talking to people, but everybody disappears in the dream. That's what it feels like. So can someone say something? I know you're there. We love you too. Yes. All right. So we know that we thrive on finding our purpose, and God has made every one of us with a very specific purpose. And I want you to know that here, we together as a family try to find that purpose. And then we continue to grow and push each other in that purpose. And that's why we come to learn and to fellowship. So welcome to anyone that's new. If you are new, there's an information desk outside, and we have some things that we would love to give you. We would love to get in contact with you, and they're free. So I actually became a member twice, just so I can get 2 free gifts. But that's just me, you know what I'm saying? So although we love to come together and connect, we also love to have a bit of fun. So we play a game in the morning, just so we could shake off the cobwebs, break the ice, wake up. And this game is going to be called Nailed It or Failed It, School Edition. So there's gonna be a clip of something that's gonna happen, and you're gonna say whether that person nails it or fails it. Okay. Oh, you can't see this. I love you, Mom. This is what happens when your kids are at school, by the way. Thank you, Higher Learning. Ah, he didn't make it. He failed it. Nailed it or failed it, guys? I love you, Mom. Yeah, okay, last words. This is a stupid idea. Oh, he made it! Wow, I didn't see that happening. Whoa. I don't know. I didn't see what happened. I was looking at it. He nailed it.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Okay, so no one told him that was a bad idea. Thanks, kids.
The chair height, about Dev. And
He
here
failed
is
it.
Mr. Cardoso's first attempt.
I guess he doesn't know that floor is slippery. Oh, whatever. He failed it, guys. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't know.
Come on.
like, ooh, he's not gonna make it, guys. Oh wow, you failed. You failed at class. That's horrible. I mean, oh, thanks for playing. You nailed it, I guess. So, then you ask us why we homeschool. No, just kidding, I don't homeschool. Oh, I wish that was an option when I was growing up. I didn't homeschool, I just didn't go to school, and I stood home. Which wasn't the same thing. Oh, I guess the school was that far, I would've went. So, if you're new, please text WELCOME to 315-883-2213, just so we can get to know you, get to say hi. And if you're not new, you've been here, you're new, you can take this number down, and let's say you have an issue during the week, and you need someone to talk to, or text someone for prayer, or maybe some advice, please text this number, and then somebody will pray for the issue you're going through. It'd be awesome. And also, life groups are starting in a week from now, because life change happens in home. Oh, life change happens in circles, not in rows. Deep. So again, not this week, but next week.
It's couches and porches and kitchen tables. It's stories shared and moments worth remembering. It's hoping and praying and taking chances. It's jokes and laughter and shoulders to cry on. It's questions and answers and I don't knows. It's knowing you don't have to figure it all out by yourself. It's messy and imperfect. It's giving and serving and growing better together. It's life, and we weren't meant to do it alone. Life is better together. Find a life group that's right for you today.
Awesome. So yeah, there's gonna be Wednesdays at the Skinners and Friday at the Doyles. It's awesome. There's a lot of learning, a lot of growing together, and a lot of free food. Holla! Just because I don't want to leave without a joke, why did the broom fail school? Because he was sweeping in every class. Hit it! The drum roll. No? Hold on, guys. I'll do it on my own. No, yeah, that was bad. So, if you missed it, again, please text WELCOME to 315-883-2213. And if you're gonna join a home group, a life group, you can text that number as well, the 315-883-2213. And I believe if you need a ride, they can help you get a ride. I think we have some members that are Uber drivers. Yeah, guys, I felt the same way, don't know why. All right, so now, in case you missed it, my name is Manny. Sorry, it's hard to read. Again, I should have went to school more often. Sorry, whoever's laughing, thank you. All right, now there's 3 ways to give. There's in person, in a white joy box in the back. You could also go online to forwardpoint.org, or you could text online to 84321. And before I leave, thank you guys for coming. I love seeing you guys. There's some people out there that have jokes that are pretty funny, and when they see me, they tell me the jokes, and I really appreciate it because it makes me laugh. So everyone that told me a joke this morning, find someone and retell them. Chris has one. It's about a corduroy pillow, but I can't remember the punchline, and I'm gonna ruin it right now. But someone did tell me that I ordered a chicken and an egg to see which one would come first. You got more laughs than I did. I'm gonna take the credit. Thank you, everyone. Please give low fives. I love y'all. Thank you. Oh yeah, you can stand up and give each other low fives. shut up.
Once we got here, everything's just been really rough, but the awesome thing about being somewhere like Forward Point is we can come here, we can shake it all off, and we can just enjoy each other and worship in the presence of the Lord. That's what we're going to do this morning. So if y'all want to get up off your feet.
Like a tidal wave, crashing over me.
Thank you for loving us every moment, every day in our weakness, and all of our failures, Lord. Praise you. In the vapor of your breath, the planets born. The stars were made to worship, so alive. I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. So alive, so alive. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty, oh Lord. Will you create fear. We lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you so alive, I can see your heart, everything you've done. And it's hard to find in a world of unconscious. Yes, Father, you left the grave behind. So alive. In a mountain where I run, can feel His goodness, that it just rains upon you, that you know that you can turn to Him with anything. He will never forsake you. He is good. He will always be good. He will always be faithful. Just remember that. Just pray His goodness over you today. Thank you, Jesus.
Good morning, Fort Point. How's everybody doing? Thank you for joining us here on this Labor Day weekend. Hopefully this is part of your holiday plans, is being together with your family. Anybody going back to school this week? Manny? Yeah? Huh? Back to homeschool? It's good to see you all. We're missing our Skinner family this morning. They're out vacationing, thinking that they could leave without us, but I suppose we'll let them go this once, maybe twice. Yes, the patriarchs. So it's good to have you all with us this Labor Day. A lot going on. My name is Jimmy. I'm one of the pastors here, and pretty excited about where we're going to be going and heading this week. It's kind of timely for my life, so hopefully it's timely for your life in the season. If not, I'm going to enjoy speaking to myself over the next couple weeks, and then when Steve comes back, and you guys can just listen in on me preaching to myself. This season of life is really starting to change for us as we enter into this school season. My wife is a teacher, so for her, school is going to be starting back up, and our oldest two are going to be going to school for the first time. Little Augustine is going to be in pre-K, so it's going to be kind of a second round of tears, dropping off another one at school, or, you know, saving money on childcare. That's always a different way of looking at it too, not having to pay as much for childcare anymore. But we're a glutton for punishment, so we thought we'd have another one, so we keep paying for two. But as we're entering the season, what I'm realizing is, you know, back in May of this year was the first time in about 2 years that we no longer had a live-in nanny at our house. We've always had, for the previous years before then, a former student from one of my youth groups in Indiana. The sister came the first year, and then her sister came the following year. So we had this span of about 2 years where we had this live-in nanny that we were able to pay to take care of our kids during the week. And when that ended, as baby number 4 was coming, baby Lily, they were starting to develop some kind of complications that can happen with being pregnant. Not that I know from experience personally, but my wife tells me that the doctor told her that she had to stay home from work for about the last month of school last year. Thankfully, she had the time built up and was able to do that. So it kind of worked out nice. The nanny left, and my wife was able to stay home for about a month before baby number 4 came in, and she was able to take care of our kids at home, and we didn't have to pay anybody. I did have to take my wife on more dates, though, to kind of help her keep her sanity. But besides that, you know, I got to eat with her as well. It was a new experience, a new stage of life for us. And then we got into, you know, the baby came in June. And when the baby came, I actually got 2 months of time off of work at Apple. So we as a family, she was a teacher, you know, able to be home for the summer. I was home on paternity leave. So we as a family kind of were, you know, at home for the entire summer, enjoying being together, right? We're cool, kind of worry-free, not a lot of things to worry about or have to pay for because we were just all together. And now things are beginning to change as she's gearing up to go back to school, and we're just gonna have to start finding and, you know, have arranged childcare and have to pay again. And what I'm noticing is I'm back to work at Apple, and now there's like all this shortness of breath because there's things that are now crawling for attention, having to have enough money to pay the sitter and having enough sanity be able to work at Apple and to be able to work at the church and to be able to do some Uber and Lyft driving on the side, all of a sudden I'm starting to feel a little nervous. A little like, there's a lot going on and going to be even increasing in the season that we're entering into, back to school season. Lots of change. And I can feel this, kind of anxiety ramping up. And it used to be, I kind of felt like I always did my best when there was a lot going on. In high school, I got the best grades when it was basketball season and I was doing drama all at the same time. Right? I don't know if it was just because I wasn't thinking much about it, I was just doing it, and the first thing that comes to your mind is usually the right thing, and that's all I had time for, and that's when I was getting the best grades. But now I'm finding, that pace as a father, and as a husband, and as a pastor, and as a genius at the Apple Store, and as a lowly Uber, Lyft driver, all these things kind of take mental capacity that I'm finding, maybe I'm not feeling so much that I'm doing my best when I'm busiest. And that's the season that I find myself in, and that's really why we said, we want to start off this back to school season talking about this idea of margin. How do we create and live with margin in our life? So let's dive into the season that we're walking through. Right? How many, if I said, if you could be honest and raise your hands, how many of you would say you occasionally or maybe often feel stressed? No one's looking around or judging, all right? But yeah, just kind of being honest. How about this? How many of you would say you occasionally or even often feel financial tension in your life, right? How many would say that kind of can describe your life from time to time, right? How many would you say, man, I wish I had more time for myself, or I wish I had more time that I could spend with the people that I love or doing the things that I love doing, right? Yeah, that's kind of the story for most of us, right? We live in this culture that pushes us to the limits. Pushes us to kind of constantly be doing more, and you're not really good enough unless you are over the top busy, right? Buy more, do more, accomplish more. And the reality is most of us probably are living at this unbiblical and unsustainable pace in our life. It's insane what is normal today, right? Normal is to be out multiple times a week, carting your kids to all sorts of different activities. And that was just with the oldest two. And now I'm going to have to worry about in a couple of years carting 4 kids around. Right? Our schedules leave us in this place where we're constantly being tied to having to drop this one off there, and we're stressed. They're stressed, makes us more stressed, and it's just constant cycle of stress that goes on, sometimes out of control until something snaps. And very few people have any margin for error in their life. What is margin? If you're taking notes, this is going to be kind of the key throughout the course of the month that we're going to look at this idea of margin. And margin simply is the amount available beyond what is necessary. The difference between what you have and what you need. If I need to get somewhere in 30 minutes, right, maybe to work or to some kind of appointment, and it takes me 10 minutes to get there, then I have about 20 minutes of margin, right? Or how about this? If I have $100 and I have about $80 worth of bills, then I got about $20 of margin to play with. And just there in case or something comes up, I have a margin of $20. At Apple, we do this all the time. When we're in the back and we're doing repairs for people, a repair for a phone usually takes, maybe about 30 minutes, right? For the slow people. For me, it's like 10 minutes. I can do it real quick, right? But what we do is we double that time, so this way, when they come back, we definitely have it done. In case we run into issues, we want to make sure there's margin to deal with the things and not disappoint our customers when they come back looking for their fixed iPhone and it's not ready for them. We build margin into our quote times. It's the difference between what you have and what you need. So how does this play out in real life? What does this look like for you and me as we're doing life, right? When you show up 10 minutes before the meeting starts, so you're maybe not arriving all frantic and discombobulated because you're running late. That's living with some margin built into your life. right? Maybe financially it looks like having some money left over at the end of the month, right? Hey, can I get an amen there, right? There's some money left over, right? Did you hear what I said there? Yes, we would all, maybe you like to have some money left over at the end of the month. Maybe for some of you it means, creating some distance between you and temptation, so you don't find yourself in a place where you're doing something you shouldn't or don't want to be doing. And rather than morally kind of being on the edge all the time, we have these margins that act as buffers to keep us away from those things that would seek to bring us down. Emotionally, it may mean, you're kind of cooling yourself off right away when something's bothering you and dealing with it, so it's not being built up and pent up. So when something unexpected happens that you weren't planning on, you aren't, lashing out at the people who you care about in your life around you. Having margin could mean, right, maybe 3 or 4 nights a week where you don't have anything planned and just rest. Right? Can you even imagine? Margins can mean having extra time or money to invest and give to the people or the ministries that you care about in life. Margin could simply be just having time to be on your own, to think and reflect, or maybe to dream, right? To dream about the purposes and the plans that God has created you for. Margin could be having significant time with God, more than just going to church on Sunday and praying for your food. Simply, again, margin is what most of us don't have in our lives anymore. And I'm convinced that the best things in life happen in those margins, those spaces that we create. The best things in life happen in those margins. We're going to be looking at the story today of these 2 sisters, these 2 different women in Luke chapter 10. And again, if you're taking notes or you're following along, you can join us there. And there's these 2 sisters. And one of them decided that she didn't have time for margins. But the other one created margins, and because of that, she experienced something that could never, ever be taken away from her. And probably left an eternal impact on her life. So if you want to turn to Luke chapter 10, we're going to pick up the story in verse 8. It says, "This is Jesus and his disciples were on their way. He came to a village where a woman named Martha, sister number 1, opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made." Right, what's Martha's state of mind here? She says that she was distracted. Right, it's interesting that here are 2 women who have access to the same opportunity. Right, Jesus is coming to town. He's stopping at their house. They both have the same access to him, the same access to this opportunity. And I'm sure Mary, right, she could have had things to do. Right, she may have had to finish laundry or go shopping or do whatever he did as a woman in this first century life. But she said, for the moment, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to allow myself to be robbed of this moment. I'm going to be fully present. But Martha was a little different. Right? She's bugging out. She's getting a little cray-cray because of the situation, right? This most important man is here, and her sister won't help with all these things that have to be done. And catch this. She wasn't distracted by something bad or something evil, right? That would be obvious, right? If we're, being distracted by joining this cult where they're drinking, Kool-Aid, and that would be obvious. We know not to do that. But she wasn't being distracted by anything bad or anything evil. Here she is distracted by good things. Things that our culture would even hold up and praise as, wow, you're a mom and you're able to get 4 kids to, yoga and dance and, all the other gluten-free cooking 101 or all the things that we do today that seem to be so important now. And Jesus is in the house, right? So better break out the good china, and better make sure all the towels are matching, and make sure, right, the toilet paper is going the right way, or, out or under, however you like it in your house. Or she was distracted by these good things. She was distracted with good things, which kept her from the best things. And I've heard it said that this way, right? If Satan, and you may want to write this down, if Satan, he's our spiritual enemy, right? His goal is if he cannot make us really, really bad, then he's going to try to make us really, really busy. Right? He's going to try to take us out of the game, out of living on purpose, by making us really, really busy. How easy is it to become busy doing lesser things that we miss out on the most important things? The most important things in life. This week, I'm sure most of you heard about the passing of John McCain, and you can agree with his politics or not, but the reality is, for me, anybody who served our country, I have a great respect for. Right, and inside of me, there's always whenever I see a police officer, whenever I see someone who served or is currently serving, like, I feel like a little school kid, because I just want to go up to them and say, man, just thank you for your service, I appreciate it. But I usually don't, because I don't want to look like a nerd or like a fanboy type of thing. But I struggle. Every time I see somebody, I wrestle with this, because I am so appreciative. Put on any kind of true story, movie about someone in the service or in history in the war, and by the end I'm crying and a little baby, because there's something special about these people who are able to live with putting their life on the line, right? So this week I was at a Mexican restaurant having dinner by myself, waiting for my car to get finished, and I sat down, and then over to in front of me to the side was a man sitting across from him, was probably his wife, an older gentleman, and he had a Vietnam vet hat on his head. And again, I tell you, I couldn't even enjoy my food anymore, because internally I'm just struggling with, man, I so wanted to tell him and show him my appreciation for what he's doing, but I don't want to be awkward, I don't want to be silly. I want to bless him, and maybe I can pay for his meal, but then I'm struggling, like, man, I have a wife and 4 kids, and money's tight over the summer. Chaz hasn't been working. But as I've been trying to put this into practice in my life and build these margins in of being able to have resources to give towards just whatever God is laying on my heart to give towards, after about 15 minutes of wrestling in my booth there, and my hands sweating, and 3 different glasses of horchata, finally I called my waitress over. I said, you know what, can I pay for his meal? And I told her, you don't have to tell him that it's me. I walked out and didn't even say anything to him, but I wanted to begin to step out, whether or not I knew, this was gonna, make him cry or bless his day, or, he would become indignant with the fact. It didn't matter to me. All that mattered was, I'm beginning to put into practice in this new season of my life. I need to have these margins where I'm free to be able to act out on whatever I feel God's leading me to do. Now, hopefully not every time I meet somebody, right, God is telling me to pay for their meal, because that means I'm going to have to build up some big margins financially, right? But in this instance, I had already started prepping for this in my life. The resources were there. And internally, I chose to live in the margin. Right? Mary and Martha they're caught in this situation. Or we can be so obsessed with what we think is important or urgent, and not leave any room for what's most important. And this is hilarious. In the middle of verse 4 here, Martha comes to Jesus, and listen to the conversation Martha begins to have with Jesus. She says, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Right? I don't know if you have ever had little kids, but I have 4 little girls, and this is like a constant, they're always telling on each other, or, she's not helping clean up. But this is an adult woman, at some point, and she's tattling to Jesus on her sister. Right there, the creator of the universe, the man turning water into wine and having a party, right, and healing people. I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to complain. I'm going to tattletale on my sister. right? She was absolutely convinced that what she was doing was correct, right? That what she was fighting for, Jesus would approve of and give a stamp of approval, right? To take her side, right? Jesus, throw me a bone here and get my sister to do what she's supposed to do. And there lies probably one of the greatest challenges that we would ever face in life. Right? We are convinced, it's when we're convinced that the way that we're living is necessary and right. Right? This is just the way that we have got to do things. Right? We're convinced that the way we're living, it has to be this way. This is the way that we have to live. Right? More and more, I gotta have more and more, and we're convinced that this is what truly matters. Completely necessary even to be successful in this world. Right? Everybody's doing it. Right? This is the pace that everybody's living at, so that to keep up, and I must have to do it too. And that's why the words of Paul in Romans is so important, right? He says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world. Or we talked about it in different, right? The world is going to set kind of this cultural tone that we're all going to be naturally tempted to go along with. Like the fish swimming in the street, right? The current is all pulling us towards this one direction. Paul says, don't be conformed to that pattern. Why do you think that, everyone else does is God's best? Why do we think that? Do not be like everyone else. So he says this, Paul says, so be transformed. You got to change your mind. And then you're going to be able to know what the will of God is. Right? Have you ever found yourself wondering, man, what's God's will for my life? Or what does he want me to do? Or why do I feel like I never hear him? And could it be that it's because we don't have the margins in our life where we can even hear what it is he's trying to tell us, or the directions that he's trying to send to us? And this is where we're going to be camping out for the next couple weeks. And my prayer is that it is going to rock your world. All right, that you maybe at times are going to feel a little uncomfortable, you're going to feel challenged. And some of you may be tempted to kind of shake it off as, it sounds good. And I like the stories that he tells, and I guess I can make some minor changes in my life. Couldn't hurt. But we're not looking for minor changes. Right? If minor changes made a difference in people's lives, then you would have done it a long time ago. We're going to talk about some radical, life-altering decisions that we need to make. Because I'm convinced that the way that we are tempted to live life is completely contrary to the way that God designed and created us to do and to be. Jesus, tell her I'm right. This is how it should be. We should be worried about the details. And Jesus says no. Right? Your production mindset, it missed the moment. You had an opportunity and now it's gone. Jesus says this to Martha, 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 you are worried and upset about many things, but few things. Or indeed, right, in reality, he's saying, in fact, it can all be summed up into one thing. And what does he say? Mary has chosen what is better. Right? And if you're taking notes, you get a Bible, you may want to underline chosen, right? There is a decision that Mary had to make. She had this choice, and she chose what is better. And I'm going to be tempted to kind of push back, and just like that wrestling that I found myself doing in that restaurant with my fajitas in front of me, right, steaming in my face, you're going to have to wrestle, and in the end, it's going to be a choice that you're going to have to make. Yeah, but my boss, Jimmy, and no. The choice is yours. And when you choose what is right, it will never, ever be taken away from you, Jesus says. And let's talk practically, right? What happens when we live a margin-less life? Right? What happens when margin decreases in our life? If you're taking notes, you want to jot these two things down. The first thing, when margin decreases in our life, what you find is your stress increases. Right? When you're running late and your margin begins to decrease, what happens? We got to get there, right? What's going on? Why did this person cut me off? Got all the red lights, right? Maybe you were running late for church this morning, right? And of course, it wasn't your fault. It was the person next to you. It was probably their fault. They took too long in the bathroom, right? And you start saying all sorts of ungodly things that you would have never said once you got here, right? No. Oh, Pastor Brother, good to see you. Yes. No elbows, all right? This is a safe place. The same is true financially, right? If your financial margins begin to decrease, what happens? Your stress increases. It goes up. In your marriage, right, as the margins decrease, your stress, you're kind of short with each other, all of that begins to increase in your life. The second thing, as margins decrease in your life, you'll begin to notice your relational intimacy decreases. Those of us who are busy, frustrated, what happens? Your mind begins to disengage from the things that you think are important. Or you can be with somebody you love but not really with them, right? We all know what that feels like, to be with somebody and they're not really there. Maybe they're kind of looking off behind you, or maybe they're on their phone and they're supposed to be there with you, but they're not really with you, right? You may be present physically, but that, the mouse upstairs running the little spinning wheel's not, it took a little lunch break, right? You can go on vacation, but you're never really there. You're not always connected with your computer or with your phone, responding to texts and emails. It could be that the only time you engage is when it's time to take kind of that token, your group selfie, and you post it on your highlight reel, social media, and then you're back to just your own little world. And as your relational intimacy decreases, it's a result of this margin in our life decreasing. I get home from a full day at Apple. I work usually 3 or 4 9-hour days there at the store, and I get home and I can almost get out of my body and see myself. I get into this kind of spaced out. I'm short with my answers. I just kind of want to veg and not talk about anything that involves any kind of thinking. However, my wife's been home all day, and she's been with 4 kids who, do nothing but talk somewhat coherently, right? And she wants to just talk to another human being on the same level. And she takes offense because I'm not present with her. And it's the same thing. And this isn't just with our relationship with people, but it's also with God. In the many years that I've been in vocational ministry, that I've seen the same scenario kind of play out time and time again. Or maybe I'll see somebody out at the store, at a restaurant, who I know from church, but they haven't been to church in a while, right? So they kind of get that look in their face, like they're panicked, like, oh my gosh, I got caught, right? It's almost like I got a warrant out for their arrest and I'm here to take them in or something, right? And it's like, oh yeah, things have just been what? I haven't been because I've been really, really busy. And how's it going with you and God and your relationship? I mean, you don't have to go to church to have a healthy relationship with God. You just, being with people is what's important. And going to church is a lot more than just Sunday mornings. Oh, me and God, we used to be close and tight, and I don't know what happened. I got really busy. What do they say? My margins have decreased or become non-existent. We become too busy for people, too busy for God, and we think that that's normal. That the pattern of this world, that is the norm. Why? Why is that? Right? Why is it that so many of us live marginless lives? Why is it that so many of us plan on slowing down one day, but we never really quite get to that day? And why Why is it that people take the house that they can't afford and they downsize and create some financial margin for themselves? Why is it that we say, money doesn't make us happy, but our lives show us kind of fighting and clawing and striving to just maybe get a little bit more? Why is it that we do not radically just cut back on our schedules to spend time with the children that will be out living their lives on their own? It could be that we do not fully trust God. That we don't have enough faith to really believe that God is on the throne and will handle the details of life. That His way of life is better for us. We're afraid that if we aren't gonna, if we aren't going and doing, then we're gonna miss out on something. That elusive something that will finally maybe fill this void. Gotta work harder, gotta have more money, gotta have the nicer car, gotta wanna miss out. I make more money today than I ever have in my life. And yet I still find myself battling the same old stress that I thought was going to go away when I was in college. But I can remember the first time I got a job offer and it was a salaried position. I was going to be making X amount of dollars for the whole year. I was just like, my mouth dropped, like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And ever since then, right, is inflation and hopefully experience, hopefully I get better, right? I make more money now than ever, and it's still the raise that I thought was going to put me in a better spot only seemed to leave me with the same marginless life. We have more opportunities in our hands than ever before to change the world, and yet we have never been more tired and drained and exhausted and find ourselves not able to. Why? Because we're filling our lives with things that don't matter, or things that are good and keeping us from what's great. And if we could sum it up in a word, the truth is, it's kind of an old-fashioned word we don't use much, it's idolatry. Like, we're elevating some good things, like Martha did. Those are good things, the details, the china, setting the table, those are good things. But we're elevating these things to be supreme things. We're distracted by all the production and worldly things. I gotta have the bigger house, then it will help our marriage. Because we'll have separate rooms now. Gotta have the nicer car, and then it will make me feel good about myself. I gotta get the promotion so I can sustain this lifestyle. And I gotta have our kids and all the best opportunities, because God forbid that we invest spiritually in our children. As a youth pastor, man, I hear so many times kids say, man, I couldn't come to youth group because I got grounded. But how do you ground your kid from going to youth group, right? Like, ground them from their phones or from Xbox or from everything else, but invest in their lives spiritually. It's idolatry. And it's killing marriages, families, and it's not what God intended. So we're going to have some come to Jesus moments throughout this series, and then we're going to push in a way that maybe you haven't been pushed before. And sadly for some, it's going to go in one year and maybe give you some warm and fuzzies for a little bit and then go out the other year. I know from experience, from doing this over and over again. But for some of you, right, you're going to taste and you get a glimpse of something, a purpose that God has for you, a better way. And you're going to believe it, and you're going to begin to conform your life to the rhythms of God's grace. And you're going to choose to just sit in His presence in the margins versus striving for all these other things that don't matter, right? For some of you, maybe this means a step towards saying, well, life groups are going to become a priority for you. Right? It's easy to kind of culturally, everybody, for the most part, go somewhere on Sunday morning. So come in here, it's kind of fun. I get free popcorn, and Manny makes me chuckle in the mornings, right? It's not a bad way to start, but to set aside some time to have to go back out and then be open and real and in these circles with people, right? Because the reality is, we say that life change happens in circles and not in rows. That's going to require a choice to create some margin, to align yourself to the rhythms of God's grace. You're going to choose what is better. And Jesus is going to make sure that it will not be taken from you. And we aren't going to give our lives away anymore to things that don't matter and do not last. And I'm going to be right here with you, confessing my weakness, but we're going to fight in His strength together to choose what is better. And here's what Jesus says in Matthew. Right? He says, this is what it feels like. This is the idea. He says, come to me, all who are wearied and burdened. All right, can that describe anybody here this morning, wearied and burdened? Right? So the invitation for you, if that's you, he says, come to me, and I will give you rest. He says, take my yoke, right? Align yourself with me. It's easy. It's going to be contrary to the patterns of this world. For I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Right? Just pause for a minute and think about that idea. Think about having rest for your soul. Man, for me, I hear that, and I think about that being in my life, and it's just like, I picture, the sound of music, and I'm the one singing and twirling in the fields, right? We're going to talk about rest. And as, I've been working on this idea of margins in my life this week, there's just been a lot of different things that have kind of stood out to me in this, looking at it through this perspective of margin. The first thing I think about this week is this man. You may have seen or heard about Andrew, the gentleman who's a pastor out in California. 30 years old, wife and kids. He was a man who dealt with depression and struggled with anxiety, and he even, got up to preach about it on a Sunday morning, and no sooner that week after he got up to preach about it, he took his own life. He lost this battle with depression. And he leaves behind this story for his wife and his kids, and his wife wrote these words. She said, the enemy knew what an amazing man you were. Speaking about her husband. The enemy knew God had huge plans for your life. The enemy saw how God was using your gifts, abilities, and unique teaching style to reach thousands of lives from Him. The enemy hated it, and he pursued you incessantly, taunting you and torturing you in ways that you were unable to express to anyone. You see, because as a pastor, a lot of times you can't have certain margins. Right? It goes against kind of the pastoral code to be open and to be honest, to admit, man, maybe you're struggling with depression, or maybe you struggle with whatever it is you're struggling with. And as a result, he wrestled with this on his own, and it got the better of him. And I wonder if maybe there were a little bit more margin that was acceptable in our culture, where we could work through and be open and honest with these struggles, the enemy wouldn't have won. I also saw it in this story I saw about this Iowa couple. An Iowa couple who welcomed their first baby in July and had been preparing to say goodbye to him since about halfway through their pregnancy, because the doctors had diagnosed their unborn child with a terminal brain malformation. The Corpustines, who had already suffered a miscarriage back in 2016, before learning that they were pregnant with their son, Matthew James, they were told at 23 weeks that their son had malformed brain tissue. Right, in our culture, that's kind of the thing that you hear, and it's, maybe we wouldn't talk about it here, but in the doctor's office and in the world, right, probably should abort the baby. Right, you don't really want to, how much pain that's going to cause you, the grief. Maybe it's a child with special needs, and it's better off if not. And then something happened as the child was born. They realized that the baby was misdiagnosed. Right? That the baby has some issues that they're able to manage and take care of. But in our culture, it's so easy that, if we don't have time to maybe invest in children, that would require a little bit more attention, require a little bit more margin in our lives. So we can just through. And I don't post, too many things politically on Facebook, but if there's one thing that just breaks my heart, it's the thought that there's children who maybe were just misdiagnosed and yet abandoned because I just don't have margin for that kind of experience in my life. And that's the world we live in. That's the pattern of this world. And then lastly, as we kind of wrap up this morning, I'd like to introduce you to this man. His name's Michael Ketterer, right? Michael is this guy that my family met watching America's Got Talent, because that's kind of one of the things that we do together as a family. We love watching the show, and rather than try to explain it myself, I'll let you just watch the backstory of his life here.
Me and my wife Ivy got married really young, and then we had our daughter Sophia. During the pregnancy, my wife got really sick.
You turn that up.
Doctor basically came out and told me the woman that I love the most in life and my new daughter, they probably wouldn't make it through the night. I spent the whole night just praying, and miraculously, my daughter pulled through, my wife pulled through, but the doctors told us if we got pregnant, this would happen again. So my wife and I made the decision we were not going to have any more children. For 7 years, it was just the three of us. And then our daughter Sophia started having these dreams. And in these dreams, there were always 3 little boys that needed to be adopted. I never thought of adoption. It took my daughter 2 years to convince us to adopt. After we went through the process of getting certified to adopt, our very first call that we got were for these 3 little boys. I promise I'm not making any of this up. They were being raised in this horrific environment. There was a meth lab in the home. They didn't have running water or power. And the youngest, because he was so hungry, he had filled his stomach with gravel. He jumped into my arms and he said, "Are you my new daddy?" And I said, "Well, you can call me that if you want to." He said, "Okay, I want to call you daddy." And that was the beginning of these 3 boys in their home. Are you happy? After having the boys for about 1.5 years, we get this phone call. And it was for another little boy. Sean was living homeless on the street. We got him when he was 4 years old. After that, we thought we were for sure done. And then we get a call. And the reason why we get this call is because I'm a nurse, and this little boy had cerebral palsy. And after our home getting so full, I was like, if this is my son, then I need a sign. I need a sign. I got in the car, and they had just put up this big billboard. And it was this man who pushed his son through marathons with cerebral palsy. And it said, "Father been behind his son for over so many marathons." And I just broke down because I was like, you literally gave me a sign. And that this little boy is my son. Me and Rodrigo have a special bond because he absolutely loves music. And I love to sing and make music. Give me a high five. Yeah! Every dad likes to think that they're a hero to their kids.
What an amazing story to see on TV. And as I began to kind of just fall in love with this guy, did some research, and it just amazes me the reality of what we could do, the lives we could touch if we had margin in our lives. Right? The thought about adopting. I heard somebody say once that if every church took it upon themselves that they would by themselves be able to, the church, get rid of the foster care system by adopting the kids. But because the church was supposed to be different from this world, because we strive for things that don't matter and have marginless lives. There's kids just growing up on the streets, growing up in meth lab homes that are just a paycheck to some people. Because we don't have margins in our lives. And here's a man who has a pretty good voice, right? He sang and he did a great job, but there's something about his story that moved the judges. And I don't know if you ever watched any of those judges shows, but Simon Cowell is kind of always known as being the blunt, telling you like it is, making people cry. And he took that man with his big old ego and heart and brought him to tears, because not so much his voice, but because of the story. Because when the world sees people who create margin to live for things that are more important, they stop. They stare, they wonder, they see, they're touched, they're moved by it. And I know we're getting late, and I'd just like to real quick share his first audition in front of the judges for you this morning.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Nervous.
It's okay. And what's your name, please?
My name is Michael Kettery.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from East Tennessee, but right now I live in Orange County.
And tell me a bit about you. What do you do for a living?
I'm a pediatric mental health nurse.
Okay. And what are you going to be doing for us? Are you a singer?
Yes, sir.
So this is kind of a different direction you coming on a show like this, Michael. So tell me what the thought process was. What's the ambition, the dream here?
Well, my family's my reason why I'm here. My wife and my 6 children.
6 children.
Yeah. One of the things that happens, especially because my children came out of foster care, when you're surviving, you can't dream. And that has been one of the most rewarding things, is providing them with a home and a safe environment where they're free to dream. And so I'm here because I want to show them that if their dad can live out his dreams, then nothing's impossible for them.
Good for you. Okay, Mike, well listen, we're all rooting for you.
Thank you. There's a light, a certain kind of light that's never shone on me. I want my whole life to be live with you, live with you. 'Cause baby, you don't know what it's like. Baby, you don't know what it's like to love somebody, to love somebody the way that I love you. Oh, the way that I love you. And though you'll never know, you'll never know just the way that I love you. Oh, the way that I love you. And baby, you don't know what it's like. Baby, you don't know what it's like.
Mike, do you know what? When we find singers on these shows, is it